Another 10% is burned just by your body digesting food. And if you want to continue living, you need to eat food.
Hello, I'm Hat, and welcome to All Hat No Cattle, AHNC for short. I had promised my next piece would be a Whitney video, and I had every intention of making it. After taking a closer look at the source video, however, I found it lacking in enough substance to make something worthwhile out of it. I'm sorry, solar-powered kitty. I've put the link in the description so you can see it and judge for yourself. Hint, don't watch it if you're eating. You've been warned. Today's video is about a character whose job is to make content so inane that response videos are de rigueur. I'm talking about the one and only Riley J. Dennis. I only recently discovered this series after my partner in Hungry Ankle Productions, Otimus Prime, pointed this video out to me. After viewing it and two others in Riley's collaboration with Everyday Feminism, see my video on Everyday Feminism for some context into these wackos, I saw fertile ground for a series of my own. This video debunks Riley's insane claim that reducing your caloric intake and exercising to lose weight is not a realistic option if you have a low basal metabolic rate, or BMR for short. This can also be referenced as BRM for basal resting metabolism. Obviously, this is a crock of shit. Leave it to a combination of Riley Dennis and Everyday Feminism to try and peddle such crap as a way of letting the obese of the world off the hook with the "I can't lose weight because I have a slow metabolism" canard. Quite pathetic. One housekeeping note. Riley is infamous for jump cuts and cutting out pauses between sentences, making it very difficult to stop cleanly between sections I want to comment upon. I apologize in advance for any of the hard cuts that are to follow. With that said,
Our weight is often framed as something that we have control over, and something that determines how much willpower we have. I've heard people say that they dislike fat people because they think that the very fact that they're fat means they don't have any self-control. But actually, the reality is that we have far less control over our own weight than we've been told. And being fat doesn't say anything about a person's willpower or self-control. Yeah, wild idea that you can't judge someone's entire character by their physical appearance. I know.
lots to unpack here. Riley talks faster than Whitney. Right off the bat, Riley is making excuses for the overweight/obese among us. Yes, there are people who have eating disorders, or at least an unhealthy relationship with food, so #NotAllObese have control over their eating habits. But instead of encouraging those with problems to seek help by saying, "You have no control over your eating, so binge away," Riley tells them that they're victims of not having self-control, and we all know how much feminism loves to play women as victims. I say women because any hookup with Everyday Feminism is never inclusive of men, at least not as often as one would think for an ideology that purports to be about the equality of the sexes. Ugh, the dictionary definition. Excuse me while I roll my eyes into the back of my skull. As far as those without any excuse for being fat, Riley's going to serve up a nice heaping plate of "nothing you can do will make a difference," plus a couple of other whoppers. Finally, and Ms. Jade is famous for this, a straw man that can be seen from the moon. People judge a person's entire character by their physical appearance. There are a few like that, of course, but Riley makes a lot of sweeping assertions. I originally misspelled sweeping as seeping in my script, but I think that works too. Anyway, I guess I'll have to pull out #NotAll again. I love this insert. The concept of taking back the word fat is hilarious to me. Fat acceptance has been a thing for several years, and it hasn't changed how anyone else uses that word. So Riley, trying to virtue signal by using fat simply as a descriptor, falls flat on his face. It's been in the lexicon as a pejorative for far too long for you to think you can take it back, my dear.
That weight loss or weight gain is very simple. It's calories in versus calories out. You need to eat less and exercise more, and boom, weight loss. But that's actually a massive oversimplification, and in fact, it causes harm to a lot of people who try to adhere to this false concept to the detriment of their health. But science, types the angry internet commenter. Sorry, but science actually agrees with me.
It's commentator, Riley, and I'm one of them. Calories in, calories out is the way weight loss works, dummy. How else can someone lose weight? Exuding phlogiston? Well, according to Riley, they can't. Weight loss is a chimera in his world, and woe betide anyone foolish enough to think otherwise. Warning, half-truths and junk science ahead. I'm going to let this next clip run long. It's the one section with the most truth of all the video, so I'll play it, then back it up and take it down piece by piece.
About 60 to 80% of your calories out are burned just by your existing, and this can vary widely for different people. This is called basal or resting metabolism, and you have zero control over this. Another 10% is burned just by your body digesting food, and if you want to continue living, you need to eat food. That only leaves 10 to 30% to be burned by physical activity. And physical activity isn't just exercise, it's walking around, fidgeting, doing whatever. So no matter how much you exercise, you never really have any control over more than 30% of what you're burning. And realistically, you probably have control over much less than that, like maybe 10%. Imagine that for any other scenario. If you were driving and only had control over 10% of the car, no one could blame you for driving in the wrong direction. If you had 10 adorable kittens, but you only had control over 10% of them, it's not your fault if 9 of them peed everywhere and tore up all the furniture.
Wow. Did you get all that? Don't worry if you didn't. We'll go back now. Let's cover basal metabolism first.
About 60 to 80% of your calories out are burned just by your existing, and this can vary widely for different people. This is called basal or resting metabolism, and you have zero control over this.
Basal metabolism rate, BMR, is what Riley described, the rate of your metabolism, or how quickly your body burns calories. Men typically have a higher BMR because they have more muscle tissue on average, and muscle tissue burns calories faster than fat tissue, also known as adipose. There is a problem though. Determining your actual BMR is a complicated process and is usually done by a specialist when there are serious medical conditions not explained by conventional diagnoses. Merely looking at someone's body type is no guarantee their metabolism is slow or fast for someone who's obese or slim, respectively. It's nothing more than a guess. Riley finds BMR so important that he links to 2 articles about it. Unfortunately, both are from Vox. Yep, I know whenever I need a big hunk of science, I go straight to Vox. Thanks for the assist, Riley. Most references I've seen to BMR burning calories are at the low end of Riley's statistics, 60% or so. For the sake of this video, however, I'm going to give Riley the most favorable interpretation of the stats he chooses. You'll see why soon enough.
Another 10% is burned just by your body digesting food, and if you want to continue living, you need to eat food.
Eating is essential to life. So is not breathing underwater. I'm telling you, I think Ms. Jade's gone out on a limb here. Seriously, this is one of the few times in this video Riley gets it right in one. Well done.
That only leaves 10 to 30% to be burned by physical activity. And physical activity isn't just exercise, it's walking around, fidgeting, doing whatever. So no matter how much you exercise, you never really have any control over more than 30% of what you're burning.
The amount of calories you burn in a day through normal motor activity, like walking around or fidgeting, is called non-exercise activity thermogenesis, or NEAT, and can be responsible for burning between 100 and 800 calories a day. I can't find out if that is part of your daily caloric needs or not, so I don't know how to factor this into any weight loss numbers. I'm going to set it aside for the purposes of this video. If you know how it fits in, please make note in the comment section. Thanks in advance.
And realistically, you probably have control over much less than that, like maybe 10%. Imagine that for any other scenario. If you were driving and only had control over 10% of the car, no one could blame you for driving in the wrong direction. If you had 10 adorable kittens, but you only had control over 10% of them, it's not your fault if 9 of them peed everywhere and tore up all the furniture.
Yeah, he went there. I can't believe how piss poor his analogies are. A car with only 10% controllability? Either Riley's driving drunk or his car needs serious repair. Whatever the reason, you damn well would be held accountable for driving in the wrong direction because no responsible driver would allow such a fucked up car, or drive while being so impaired to the same effect, to go onto the open road. Jesus, how dumb are you? Pretty dumb, as evidenced by analogy number 2, uncontrollable yet adorable kittens. Riley, if you were a crazy cat lady, 10 kittens qualifies you for that designation, and 90% of those kittens use the carpet as a litter box and the furniture as scratching posts, you are an irresponsible pet owner. Animal control would be at your house in no time, and then what? No kittens and possibly an eviction notice. You are responsible for your actions, idiot! You don't get a free pass for handling even 90% of a situation when 100% is required. Back to losing weight. 10% means nothing towards weight loss, according to Ms. Dennis here. Here's the thing. If you can cut 500 calories a day out of your calories needed per day to stay at your current weight by eating better, burning that amount with exercise, or a combination of the two, you'll lose about a pound, perhaps a pound and a half a week. That's what you want. That's what nearly every reasonable guideline for weight loss gives as a proper goal. Let's put that into perspective. By using the formula listed, I have a BMR of approximately 1,700 calories per day. Link is in the description. For grins, I did Whitney's BMR using back-of-the-napkin numbers. Her BRM, 2,700 calories a day. The fatter you are, the higher your BRM. Kind of fucks up R.J. Dennis's narrative, doesn't it? One thing, your BMR goes down as you lose weight, primarily because of loss of muscle tissue. Adding strength training to your exercise program can help keep that from happening. Now to tie it all together. You need to know what your baseline calories to maintain your current body weight is. I've put the link in the description to show how. For now, we'll use me and Whitney as guinea pigs. For me, my baseline is 1.2 times my BRM, which equals 2,040 calories. That means a combination of eating right and exercise to a level of 1,540 calories will give me a weight loss of approximately 1 to 1.5 pounds per week. 1,540 calories per day is important, and I'll tell you why in just a bit. For Whitney, it would be BRM times 1.35. That comes out to 3,645 calories. If Whitney can go down to 3,145 calories daily with any combination of diet and exercise, she'll lose the same amount of weight per week. Let's say she has a goal of 150 pounds, meaning she needs to lose approximately 250 pounds. Divide 250 by 12, and you'll see Whitney could be 150 pounds in just under 21 months. I'll be happy to wait, starting now. Here's the important part. You have a minimum number of calories you must consume each day depending on your sex. For men, it's 1,800, and for women, it's 1,200. Below that, and you're damaging your body. So I can't just cut 500 calories out of my daily intake, as that would put me 260 points too low. All I need to do is balance that with exercise, and I'm fine. Whitney, on the other hand, has 2,445 calories between her baseline and her minimum intake requirement. I'd say she's not in any danger of hitting that floor.
My point is, we frame weight loss or weight gain as something that people have a ton of control over, but scientifically, factually, that's not the case.
The last person who should be using the words scientifically and factually is Riley J. Dennis. Citation needed, lady.
Some people have a high basal metabolism and they tend to be naturally skinnier, like me. And some people have a low basal metabolism and they tend to be fatter. That's just how bodies work. We're not all the same, and you can't hold everyone to the same standard when we all have wildly different metabolic rates.
To quote my favorite homicide detective of all time, Lieutenant Joe Kenda, check out Homicide Hunter on Investigation Discovery and see for yourself, he would say, my, what did you just say? It makes no fucking difference what your BMR is. If your caloric input is less than your caloric output, you cannot help but lose weight. That's your damn science, Riley. That's your damn fact. Whitney's BMR is 1,000 calories a day higher than mine. She could eat 3,500 calories a day and still lose weight. That's without any exercise. I'm in tougher shape, as according to my calculations, I can't reduce my caloric intake far enough without damaging my body, so I have to exercise enough to burn 200 calories a day. That's equivalent to a daily 35-minute walk. Oh my God, the horror!
At this point, I imagine people are saying, but what about calories in? You still have control over that. And yes, you do, to some extent. First of all, not all food is accessible to all people. Millions of Americans live in what the government calls food deserts, which are areas of the country where there aren't any grocery stores that sell fresh, healthy, affordable food. And to the surprise of literally no one, these tend to be in low-income areas.
This is true. Riley has a link to this in his description, and I've included it in mine as well. Unfortunately for his argument, food deserts don't mean it's impossible to eat healthily. It just requires a bit more planning and better choices. Meat selection, for instance, will not be as wide in choices as at Whole Foods, but that doesn't mean your only choices are going to be pure fat. Let's say you can't buy chicken breasts already separated from the chicken. Buy a damn chicken! It's cheaper than getting select cuts anyway. Next, don't fry the damn thing. Bake, roast, stir fry. These are all healthier options. Fresh vegetables versus canned or frozen, virtually no difference in nutrients. Zero. Add to that, there are now more and more municipalities addressing food deserts by doing such things as arranging for food to be ordered from the home and then picked up at a local spot, say a community center, and it's apparent that this problem is not the cause of poor diets, as Riley paints it to be.
But also, even when folks do have access to whatever food they want, everyone's caloric needs are different, and forcing people to eat fewer calories than they need has been scientifically proven to be ineffective in the long run, even if you've heard anecdotal evidence that says otherwise.
Forcing? What the hell does he mean by that? The Dachau diet? This is such a load of crap. Fuck him for making us listen to this insanity.
Most people who diet gain all the weight back, and more, within 5 years. Plus, it's honestly irresponsible to put this pressure on people to consume as few calories as possible when we know that that contributes to eating disorders.
And Riley J. Dennis serves up another strawman souffle. A 500-calorie-a-day decrease is not forcing someone to eat as few calories as possible. We're not turning people into anorexics just because we're asking them to cut back on 3 sodas a day or walk a little bit, for fuck's sake. Jesus, Riley. Drama much? Anyway, that's another one for Riley. Kind of. Yes, dieters will most often gain more weight than they lose after 5 years. Riley even cites a UCLA newsroom release from 2007. So fresh. That says the same thing. But it doesn't say anything about how long they dieted. Obviously not for 5 years, right? So if the person in question was gaining weight when they started the diet, quit, and then went back to their earlier eating habits, of course they're going to get even heavier. Is that the diet's fault? Maybe some measurable amount, but whatever that is, Riley ain't giving it out. Also, you have to understand how they're using the word diet. That doesn't normally refer to cutting back on calories and increasing exercise in a, wait for it, safe and responsible manner. Diets, as Riley is using the term, means the kind of stuff you read in Cosmo or see on Dr. Oz. I could do a series of videos about that, man. Charlatan. In other words, fad diets. Of course these don't work. They invariably have some dietary restrictions that range almost from reasonable to insanely difficult to maintain. Losing weight is about changing to a healthier lifestyle, not restricting yourself to starvation portions 6 days a week, then stuffing yourself on day 7. Penn Jillette does that. Does he look healthy to you? Maybe you're told to cut out all of one food type. Carbs is the most common, even though it's proven that your body needs carbs as a way to provide fast-acting energy. Proteins and fats take longer to digest, and your body is constantly burning calories. Your brain needs a ton of calories all the time. Give it some bread.
So I can already hear the strawman arguments against me. Riley says that exercise is pointless and we can eat whatever we want. She wants everyone to get fat and die. No, that's not true. I know people are still going to say it in the comments, but it's not true.
What do you call it when someone creates a strawman fallacy out of a strawman fallacy? Anyone? I'm going with the double backflip fallacy. Share your definitions below.
Exercise is healthy. I would encourage everyone to exercise if they're able to, but it's not a good way of losing weight.
What the fuck? Citation needed, Jacko. Oh wait, Riley does have a citation. Here's the article from that paragon of journalistic integrity, Vox. As you can see by this graph, there is a slope that designates the amount of pounds lost in 30 days by a 200-pound man running at a medium intensity pace for 1 hour, 4 days a week. The line shows this man would lose an average of 5 pounds in that month. Looking at the outside of the shaded areas, we can see the actual range of projected weight loss is between 3 and 7 pounds. My question to Ms. Dennis, and Vox for that matter, is simple. How is that a bad thing? As I stated earlier, a pound to a pound and a half a week is what you want. I'll applaud Vox for using a chart from the National Institute of Health, but they deserve a quick kick in the ass for the way they used it. Misrepresenting good data to fit your narrative is exactly what anyone would expect from fat acceptance feminists, and surely these two did not disappoint.
And what that should tell you is that health is not connected to your body weight in the way that you were probably raised to believe. Of course, we all know by now that the BMI is an awful and inaccurate way of measuring health because it only takes into account height and weight and literally no other factors like exercise or genetic conditions. But what that means is that fat people can be healthy and skinny people can be unhealthy.
Riley is right in that the body mass index is not always an accurate measure of health. It's too broad, with not enough data to give a true indication of a good goal for you. For instance, bodybuilders are mischaracterized as having an unhealthy body by the BMI. One thing though, BMI uses height, weight, and age to determine your index, not just height and weight as Riley stated. What about the unhealthy skinny person versus healthy fat person facts she's presenting? First off, I thought skinny was a bad word, an unachievable goal for overweight women perpetuated by evil men whose only goal is objectification of all women. Isn't that right, everyday feminism? Or Riley? Or fuck, I'm confused. Anyway, there's always outliers in a group. In my dictionary, skinny denotes an unattractive body weight, but that doesn't equal sickly. I think Ann Coulter is too damn thin, but I don't hear of her calling in sick to talk shows and news panels. As far as healthy and overweight, look at Whitney's quote-unquote friend, Amanda, the anorexia survivor and true body positivity spokeswoman. You can find her in my first Whitney video, Whining Whitney Thor. Yeah, you can be either of these and be either healthy or unhealthy, but that's not what we're really talking about here, is it, Riley? You're trying to sneak the obese into this conversation, and I'm not going to let you get away with it. It is medically impossible to be obese and healthy. Eating 3,500 calories a day just to maintain your body weight cannot be considered normal behavior, much less of what that amount of fat does to your internal organs, etc. Nice try, Jade, but no cigar.
You can eat poorly and never exercise and be skinny, and likewise, you can eat great and exercise all the time and be fat.
Sorry for the quick cut, but you gotta swat the flies as they land. Riley said people in food deserts can't eat healthy, so they can be excused for having a higher incidence of obesity. Now he says you can not eat healthy and not exercise and be skinny. Typical feminist SJW inability to keep a narrative straight. It would be funny if it weren't so painful to listen to. Then there's part 2 of this idiocy. Riley says you can eat great and exercise all the time and be fat. Could you give me one example of this mythical being, Riley? One? No, of course not, because that is physically impossible, you moron. The example from your own Vox article shows someone who exercises 4 hours a week, hardly all the time, as you said, loses between 3 and 7 pounds a month. You lying retard.
There are so many other factors when it comes to health that we ignore, and it gives us this very misguided idea that fat people are inherently unhealthy or weak. And remember that correlation does not equal causation. So higher rates of type 2 diabetes in people the BMI classifies as overweight doesn't mean that their weight caused the diabetes. Lots of other factors could contribute to both their weight and their diabetes that we don't know about.
This is a little lengthy, but the previously stupefying lie needs to be refuted in full. This is an abstract published through the National Center for Biotechnology Information, and it's on PubMed.gov. It's entitled Obesity and Its Comorbid Conditions, and the authors are unpronounceable, McCowan and Blackburn. Let me read it to you. Obese patients are at an increased risk for developing many medical problems, including insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes mellitus, hypertension, dyslipidemia, cardiovascular disease, stroke, sleep apnea, gallbladder disease, hyperuricemia, and gout, and osteoarthritis. Certain cancers are also associated with obesity, including colorectal and prostate cancer in men, and endometrial, breast, and gallbladder cancer in women. Excess body weight is also associated with substantial increases in mortality from all causes, in particular cardiovascular disease. More than 5% of the national health expenditure in the United States is directed at medical costs associated with obesity. In addition, certain psychologic problems, including binge eating disorder and depression, are more common among obese persons than they are in the general population. Finally, obese individuals may suffer from social stigmatization and discrimination, and severely obese people may experience greater risk of impaired psychosocial and physical functioning, causing a negative impact on their quality of life. I'd say that takes care of that. Now let's get back to Riley's video.
Plus, people who are overweight by the BMI scale actually have lower all-around mortality rates than people who have healthy BMIs. People with an underweight BMI are also at an increased risk for certain health problems, and yet fat people face significantly more discrimination and prejudice.
What's with all the air quotes, Jade? These terms aren't being used in a non-traditional manner, nor are they not in regular usage. Seriously. Anyway, BMI is a bad indicator of health, except when we say it's good. Feminist logic again, folks. There is truth to this claim, however. I've linked to Riley's supporting article in the description. The study it describes does indeed find those in the overweight BMI category were associated with significantly lower all-cause mortality. That's all well and good, but let's look at the rest of the summary. I'm cutting out a lot of the statistics here in order to get to the meat of this study. It is a metadata analysis of which 141 articles out of 7,034, or 2%, were eligible. So, conclusions and relevance. Relative to normal weight, both obesity, all grades, and grades 2 and 3 obesity were associated with significantly higher all-cause mortality. Grade 1 obesity overall was not associated with higher mortality, and overweight was associated with significantly lower all-cause mortality. The use of predefined standard BMI groupings can facilitate between study comparisons. I do want to highlight one thing here, though. This sentence, the topic of the mortality differences between weight categories has sometimes been described as controversial. In other words, this is not definitive data. We'll give Riley the benefit of the doubt and go by it as it's stated. You will notice there is no mention of underweight in this study whatsoever. I don't know where Riley got that from. Once again, Riley's trying to do a little sleight of hand here by getting you to think overweight's okay, so therefore obesity must be okay. You notice he says the word fat about 7 or 8 times in this video, but he rarely, if ever, says the word obese, and he certainly never says morbidly obese. So he's conflating overweight with all other types of obesity in order to try to pull the wool over your eyes.
There are two main takeaways from this. First, people don't have a lot of control over their weight. Basal metabolism is powerful and out of your control.
Yeah, I've already taken that lie apart and put it back together again, and then blown it up. So, screw you, Riley.
Secondly, even if someone had all the control in the world over their weight, you still shouldn't hate them or shame them for it. That also has been scientifically proven to not have any kind of positive effect.
Jade thoughtfully provides us with yet another straw man fallacy. I seriously doubt anyone fat shames with the intent of actually helping someone. They do it in order to belittle the other person and make themselves feel better in comparison. It's the same for any kind of bullying. You tear the other down in order to build yourself up. Call a spade, Riley. Stop making up arguments.
So feel free to exercise, feel free to try to eat nutritiously, if all of that is possible for you. But I would encourage you to do it in the pursuit of feeling better rather than in the pursuit of weight loss.
This is flat out stupid. Virtually everyone I've ever known who began a weight loss regimen did so to feel better about themselves and to improve their health. Riley's operating under his previous delusion that exercise and eating right will have zero effect on your weight. I think it's pretty ironic for a stick figure like Riley to tell us just how impossible it is to lose weight when he's never had to do so in his life. Skinny privilege? I'm not sure.
The relationship between food, health, and exercise is even more complicated than just your basal metabolism. So don't think that this video covers the entire subject. I just wanted to highlight that one aspect. This video is a part of a series called Feminism with Riley that I'm doing in collaboration with Everyday Feminism, a website dedicated to helping you stand up to and break down everyday oppression.
Please see my video on this virtual rag to get an idea of how ridiculous the idea of any Everyday Feminism article doing something positive for the reader, assuming the victim is not knee-deep into the morass that is third-wave feminism. So that's it. As you can see, Riley alone is bad enough, but combine him with the idiots at Everyday Feminism, the illiterate idiots at Everyday Feminism, if you watch my video, you'll know what I mean, and you have exponential growth in stupidity. I'm going to review the other two videos in Riley's Everyday Feminism Fat series, and hopefully there'll be enough material there for another video or two. In the meantime, let me say that I appreciate your coming to the channel, watching this video, and hopefully commenting on it below. As always, be well, and thank you for your attention.